Hi, everybody. It's me, AG Sports. First of all, going back to the picks from last week, had a decent enough week. Favorite play for last week was the Bills Chiefs over 54. For a long time, that did not look so safe. It was really struggling to get there, and it was kind of shitting bricks with like 2 minutes to go. And then it finally hit with a 2 point conversion. And then after that, it was like the floodgates just opened. And if you go back and look at the total now, it looks like, yeah, the over was never in question. But it really, really was until the last 2 minutes. If the Bills didn't get that touchdown, it was like a 4th and 14. And maybe even if they don't get the 2 point conversion, who knows if it actually ends up going over. If they didn't score, it was going to go back to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were probably going to try and run the ball out. And I don't think the Bills would have stopped them from doing that. So, really good game. Obviously, really entertaining, and it did work out our way. So, that was good. As far as the rest of the picks, well, really, there weren't a lot of picks. The only other one was the Titans-Bills. We had the Titans money line. Titans-Bengals. We had the Titans money line. Didn't work out, but that game kind of the opposite. It felt like that game played out like we should have won it. Played like the Titans should have won that game. They had 9 sacks. They were consistently moving the ball. They did 3 bad turnovers from Tannehill. They had like a fourth and goal for fourth and whatever stop. It was like 4th and 1, and they tried some shitty pitch back. It didn't work, which whatever. I don't know why they tried that, but anyway, so it really looked like we should have won that game, and the Bengals squeaked a win out of that and really kind of stole that win instead of taking it from the Titans. And that, to me, is kind of evidenced by the line this week. The line is telling us here the Chiefs should win this game. I know the Bengals won earlier in the year, and they won against the same Chiefs team. A couple things here. I'm going to give you guys the picks that I've actually put money on already, what I'm waiting for, and a little bit of trend history in these games. So, just so you know, and you probably have heard this before sometime throughout the year if you've been listening the whole year, when teams play twice, usually that second game or the second go-around, there are more points scored. And it's a very simple reasoning behind it. Whoever lost is making adjustments to try and counter the other team and try and win, obviously, which typically leads to them putting up more points. The team that won usually has something that was working for them in the first matchup or whatever that they're going to keep doing, at least until the other team tries to stop it. But for those reasons, you usually just have a little bit more of a potent offense on both sides of the ball, and the defense usually isn't as secretive. It's not as much of a surprise as far as how they want to stop you, especially if it's a team that don't match up twice usually, because in that first game you're not really trying to hide anything if you don't think that you're going to see them a second time. So a lot of these games you've probably heard already have been rematches, and they're just kind of rehashes from the regular season, and most of them, I think except for the Packers 49ers game, have gone over. The 49ers are a whole different ball game here because they are such a slow playing team. But I tell you what, we'll get into that. Let's focus on the first game first. So the first game, I believe, ended at 64 points. Now we're set up with a total of 54.5, and I don't really see the line moving much, if any. Possibly we gets to 55, but I think after 55 you really start to see some pushback, just because it's such a high number. 54 last week was with the with the Bills, and that was already kind of a stretch, right? But in this game, aside from just having a previous matchup, we have the Chiefs with possibly some injured defensive players. If you're watching that game, Tyrann Mathieu went out of the game, I want to say like in the first quarter, and then they lost, I apologize because I cannot remember his name right now, but I believe they lost one of the linebackers in like the fourth quarter, so they're really having some issues there as far as just keeping men on the field for the defensive side of the ball. The Bengals have had a really weak defensive line, and I think that's why a lot of teams have been able to run on them pretty successfully. Even the Titans were getting all big chunk gains on them last week. I think you're going to see the Chiefs have a somewhat similar approach in that they're going to try to get big chunk gains on the ground, and I think that's probably going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe Jerick McKinnon getting mixed in there as he did last week, and then of course you're going to have Patrick Mahomes where he's going to take off and get those open lanes. So a lot of this stuff is going to come back and be kind of reusable for the Chiefs as far as their game plan is concerned. The first time these teams played, the Chiefs had some really weird play calling, and they were right in the middle of their turnover fest. So if you don't remember, there was a stretch in the middle of this year where the Chiefs were having this weird turnover luck where balls are bouncing off of people's chests and phrasing, but they just could not catch. They were getting tipped balls, they were getting intercepted, weird fumbles, just weird shit all the time. And they had a 4th and goal or a 4th and 1 that they didn't convert. Just all sorts of weird stuff happened in that first game, and the Bengals were able to win. But the Chiefs really gave them the win more so than the Bengals taking it, kind of like what happened last week. That all being said, though, I personally lean the Chiefs, and I do think that they're gonna pull out this win. The Bengals have just had some really good strokes of luck. First, they got to play what was probably the worst playoff team in the Raiders week 1. They were able to just beat the hell out of them. And then last week, like we said, they really kind of got lucky with the Titans' turnovers. 3 turnovers from Ryan Tannehill really gave them that win. This week, they're not going to have that. They're not playing this weak team. They're not playing somebody who's going to keep turning the ball over and making bad decisions. And if you didn't already know this, the Bengals played the second easiest schedule of the year. Now, the Chiefs were not super difficult as far as their strength of schedule, but they were in the middle of the pack somewhere, whereas the Bengals had a super easy schedule and road to get here. I do believe we finally kind of see the switch turn here, and the Chiefs make the corrections from the first game. They play a little bit cleaner. They maybe don't have so many penalties, don't have to make so many mental mistakes, and they win this game. But I do believe it goes over. Just the lack of players on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs. Really, the lack of anybody being able to match up with Jamar Chase. Chase was an issue the first game. If you don't remember, Jamar Chase was just torching these guys, especially in the fourth quarter. They have not gotten anybody better on the secondary, and they lost Tyrann Mathieu. Chase is going to have a day. But even if they try to bracket Chase or shade coverage his way, you're going to see what happened last week with Gabriel Davis. You're going to see guys like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins get loose, get open, and have open, deep threats just down the field, and Joe Burrow can hit those. One thing that I didn't like last week about the Bills' game plan was that they wanted to get super conservative super early, and it seemed like part of their game plan was, let's keep the ball away from the Chiefs. Let's give them as little time as we can with Mahomes on the field, and maybe that kind of sort of worked for the first 3 quarters, and it was pissing me off because I had a bet on the over, but they were just going really slow and methodical, picking up 4th and 1s and 3rd and 3s and all kinds of stuff like that, and that can work, but the level of variance on that, your margin of error is so slim. You've got to play a perfect game if you're going to do it that way, because the Chiefs can score from anywhere on the field with anyone on the field at any given time. So if you are going to play it that way and the Bengals are going to try to run the ball, there's a very big chance that they get behind on the scoreboard and the Chiefs just throttle these guys. As far as the over is concerned, I actually got the over 53.5, so that's a bet I already put money down on. As soon as it opened, 53.5 is what I grabbed it at. The reason I think it's going to be over, like I said, there was a previous matchup. The defenses are banged up. The Bengals offense is just going to be too talented for this Chiefs team to slow down. The Chiefs and the Bengals both realize that they need to score touchdowns in this game and not field goals to get the win. The Chiefs really had an issue with their kicking last week, and I don't know if it's going to be much better this week, but I have a feeling that Andy Reid is not going to want to rely on their kicker to win this game. As far as the Bengals are concerned, Zach Taylor has already come out saying he knows field goals aren't going to win this game. I really do see a lot of 4th and 1s or 4th and goals or whatever being attempted in this game. it should just be a shootout, somewhat like we saw last week. Lastly, though, the Bengals scheme and just schematic as far as how they use the receivers, not just the talent level, but they just have a way of getting guys open, kind of scheming them open. And the Chiefs, if you go back and watch the film last week, were really susceptible to having maybe shading to the outside coverage and giving away those inside slants and like late crossers. And the Bengals will do that all day, every day, and they'll even do that with Uzama. So they have a lot of weapons here. And these guys, no matter if they're up 7, 10, 20, whatever, both of these teams realize that their leads are not safe. Both of these teams have come back from big deficits. So they're going to keep racking up the scores. They're not going to lay off until the game is well within hand. So that over 53.5 would be my pick. It is at 54.5 right now. If you do decide to take the over, I would buy the hook down to 54. 54 is now turning into a key number for totals. It's about 3% of the time, but 3% is about as high as we get when it comes to totals. I would get that 54, and I'm riding with that. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get up too much higher. I don't believe it's going to be lower at all. The only thing that scares me about this game is how public of a play it is. Like 90% of the money right now is on the over, but that is sharp money as of right now. It's only Monday night as I'm making this video, so not a lot of public people are putting money into this thing. I really do think you're going to see the over take up maybe just another half a point as we get closer to kickoff. So I'd grab this probably sooner than later, but you maybe have a little bit of time, probably from now through about Friday or so. As far as just a straight up winner, I do believe the Chiefs win. I would like to say that they cover, but 7 seems like it's a perfect number because you're probably going to see, again, some of what we saw last week where they win by like a touchdown, and it just comes down to them having the ball last or having better time management or whatever the case is. The Chiefs don't really blow out teams. So if I had to lay just a one-sided affair and I had to just pick a team on the spread, I'd actually probably pick the Bengals plus 7, but my preferred method of going about that would be to tease the Chiefs down to -1. So either teasing the Chiefs down to -1, taking the Bengals plus the 7, whichever way you want to play that, that's up to you. I can tell you, I personally have the tease, but it's for like a half a unit. I'm not advocating you go out and do that, but that would be the first leg of the tease. The stronger play, and probably my favorite play of the weekend, is the over 53.5. And again, for you guys, I'd just buy the hook down to 54. The next game in the nightcap for Sunday is going to be the 49ers and the Rams. Now, this is a game we've already seen twice this year. The third time around doesn't really seem, at least to me, to be shaping up to be much different than the first two go-arounds. The 49ers as a plus 3.5 dog. I believe 5 of the last 6 times that they've played, they've been dogs, and all 5 of those times they won outright. So the 49ers are just a bad matchup for the Rams. The 49ers love to run the ball. We've seen that all year long. We saw it the last 2 weeks in the playoffs. They love to run the ball. That's what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. He's going to scheme guys open. He's going to scheme his linemen to go certain ways and create gaps. And that's fantastic. It works, and it's been working for them. Now, I will say, I think they are sort of in the same boat as the Bengals in that they've been gifted these first 2 games. They beat the Cowboys, but the Cowboys had like 15 penalties, and they just kept trying to let the Cowboys hang around and stay in the game, and it was just by sheer incompetence that the Cowboys didn't at least get a shot to try and win that game. In the second week, the 49ers really lucked out with the weather issues. I think playing outdoors actually helped them and hurt the home team, the Packers, in that shootout or in that game. Packers just could not move the ball as effectively as they usually would. The punting and special teams got all sorts of messed up, and that's the only reason the 49ers were able to score that touchdown and eventually win the game based off of that touchdown that had tied it up initially. Not to say that they're not a good team. I do think that they're good. I think they're talented. I think Shanahan is a decent to good coach. But I do believe we have to acknowledge that the games that they've played have been somewhat skewed in their favor for one reason or the other. The Rams, on the other hand, really haven't looked great. It looks like they get out to hot starts and then they try to give the game away in the second half. And even going back to week 18, when they played this exact game, the Rams were up like 17-3 at half, and then they let the 49ers come back and win that game in the fourth quarter. As far as the points are concerned, the last game they played was 27-24, so for a total of 51. I believe that that's probably going to be about the right score. The third time that teams play, I know earlier we were talking about the second matchup. Second matchup is, again, usually the higher scoring of the first two. By the time we get to the third game, though, everything has been kind of worked out as much as possible. And for the most part, the scores are around the same as they were in the second one. We usually see within one standard deviation of that second total. So I don't expect it to be an overly high-scoring game. And what really concerns me about this one, as far as just output, is that both of these teams like to get a lead and then just sit on it. We saw that from the 49ers in the first game with Dallas. They got out to a lead, I believe it was like 17-0 or 17-3 or something like that, and they just were totally fine with just slowing the hell out of that game down, just running it, short pass, check down, run it, and they just wanted to get the hell out of there, keep people healthy, and I get it, and it works, and I believe that that's what's going to happen if the 49ers get out to a lead here. The Rams, on the other hand, a little bit different, but the result is the same, because the Rams will start hot. They won't start by just running the ball all the damn time. They will pass it. You'll see those long, explosive plays to Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and all that kind of stuff. And I believe those plays are going to be out there for them because this 49ers secondary is still banged up. But I believe what's going to happen is you're going to see them get out to a hot start. And then it's happened again. It even happened last week with the Buccaneers, where they had like a 24-3 lead or whatever the hell that was. And then they just stop. Like, they totally take their foot off the gas and they want to just run. And for the most part, that would be okay. But when you're in the playoffs, that other team isn't giving up. They're not going to just say, okay, well, you beat us, we're done, we're going to just wrap it and go into next week. No, they're going to keep trying. These guys are going to keep coming at you until that game is done. And we saw it last week. It almost cost them against the Buccaneers. 49ers obviously don't have Brady. But if the Rams do that, if the Rams slow this game down, they're going to be playing right into the 49ers' hands, because the 49ers will continue to run the ball and get these big chunk plays if you let them, especially if you're going to just take your foot off the gas and kind of leave that window open for them to make that comeback. Either way, regardless of which team gets out to the early lead, which I believe would probably be the Rams, by the third quarter, I see this game getting super slow. If you had to bet this game, and especially if you want to bet the Rams, I would really say to bet that first half. Betting the first half on the Rams minus 2.5 would be the pick that I would go with. I have not put money myself on that just yet, but I'm really heavily leaning that way, and I want to see where this goes. Right now, it looks like the plus 3.5 for the Niners is kind of juiced up, so I can see that going down to just plus 3, and if that's the case, we may get a Rams just minus 2 for the first half, and obviously I'd prefer that. So you may want to wait just a second on that one, but I do like that angle because, again, I see the Rams coming out, passing, and building that lead, and hopefully, if you're a Rams backer, Sean McVay doesn't take his foot off the gas so quickly this time around. As far as the full game over, though, it came out at 47, it got bet down to 46.5, and now it's down to 46 because of exactly what I'm telling you. Everybody's understanding that regardless of what happens in the first half, this second half is going to probably be a much slower paced game where we probably see, 7 points a quarter or something like that, depending on what the score is and what team is really trying to push the envelope here. If the 49ers are ahead, there's a chance that you see a little bit of additional scoring because the Rams have that ability. If the Rams are the ones who are in the lead and they're just going to be playing the deep pass and letting the 49ers run all day, you're going to see a lot of time come off the clock, every single chance that the 49ers get, and that's just the way they play. So I personally like the under, but I would not be taking under 46. You may want to wait, because right now most of the sharp money has already come in on the under. As we get closer to kickoff, what we're looking for is some public money to come in, kind of boost the over up to 47, and they grab the under 47. So that's what I want. I did grab that earlier in the week, or when these numbers first came out. I grabbed the under 47 for about a half unit. And again, it's a half unit earlier in the week because we're trying to kind of let these numbers settle just a little bit and see where we're going. But the under 47, just watch it, see if it gets there. You'll be able to tell. You'll see the VIG kind of moving, to go to minus 120 or minus 125, and just see which direction it's going to go. But if you can get the under 47, I really, really like that prior to kickoff. If we can't get it prior to kickoff, look for it as a live bet. And I don't usually suggest that, but because I, again, heavily suspect that first half is going to be much higher scoring than the second half, if we have something like what we saw last week where it's like 24-10 or 24-17 or 13 or whatever, and by half, the over-under will be even higher than 47. You might be looking at like a 51 over-under, and I really would love that, obviously, again, with 51 being the key number. So look for the under, but if we don't get the number we want before the game, just kind of stay off it, wait till the game is live, watch the game, of course, and once you see that over-under hit 51 in-game, then we can take that. As far as the side on this one, I prefer the 49ers plus the 3.5. The 49ers have just been able to beat this team it seems like every single time they play. Kyle Shanahan just knows what McVay wants to do. McVay has not really found the answer to beat this 49ers team, and he's had several opportunities. I don't think he's going to find the answer this time around. The only thing I expect him to try to do differently is just not take his foot off the gas. But I do believe Shanahan's going to come up with some nifty little ways to get at Stafford and maybe kind of throw him off his game a little bit. So if I had to take a number here, I would be taking the 49ers plus the 3.5. As far as the teaser is concerned, I would be teasing that 49ers up to the 9.5. So it'd be Chiefs -1, 49ers plus the 9.5. If you do decide to tease it, again, mine was like a half unit. It's a smaller play. If you decide to do that, you really don't have to rush it, because I don't see either of these lines moving too much. Even if the 49ers get knocked down to 3, teasing it to 9 or 9.5 is not a big difference. Either way, you're not going to get to 10, and that's really what we'd be looking for. And I don't see the spread going up any. If anything, it's just going to come down. So just as long as you get the 3 and you get it to the 9 when you tease it, I think that's really, again, either way, you're fine there. Same thing with the Chiefs. If the Chiefs get to -7.5, not really a big deal. You're going from -1 to -1.5. Not a big key number, nothing like that. So either way, you have some time on the tease, but that is the tease that I'd be looking at. So again, the official picks are going to be over 53.5 for the Bengals and Chiefs, under 47 for the 49ers and the Rams, and then the 49ers plus 3.5. So those are the 3 official picks. If you want to add the teaser in there, you can, but again, that's probably my least favorite of all of these. And I'm not going to be putting any additional funds on that even as we get closer to kickoff. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Hopefully there was something said in here that you maybe picked up on or learned or whatever it is at this time. One other thing I do want to mention, though, is, again, I've been doing this all year long now, but this is probably the 5th year I've been betting consistently on the NFL. And throughout that time, I've learned a lot of little tips and tricks, listening to other people, other plays, other way everybody looks at this. And one thing I am going to be putting out in this off season, and it's going to take some time, obviously, because I have to put it together, but I will be putting out a book about all the different angles of handicapping the NFL. So not just the algorithm, not just the Madden algorithm, but the little tips and tricks and like trademarks and things like that you just don't learn, or nobody tells you right away, and you have to kind of pick up on it, or you have to do a lot of film study, or you have to do a lot of listening to podcasts. I'm going to put that all in a book. I'm going to try and keep it free if possible. So look for that this off season. I'll put out a video when the book does come out. Either way, guys, hopefully you're going to tell me on these picks. Even if you don't, let me know what you don't like, why you don't like it, why you maybe think somebody else is going to, pull out the upset, whatever it is. Let us know. Have a great day, have a good weekend, and enjoy these last couple games before football's gone.